Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Finding Joy in Your Home podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Belmay, and it's the middle of December. It's the middle of December. We've got the countdown going on in our household to Christmas Day. People are excited. And this last weekend, I really started to feel that December crunch, right? That December crunch of, I got to wrap up, finish my Christmas presents. I got to wrap those Christmas presents. We are hosting 2 different events at our house this next week. I'm not quite sure how they both ended up on the same week. And at the time I was like, sure, the house is already going to be clean. We'll be good. Now I'm like, okay, we're hosting twice in this next week. 2 very large things both times, but it'll be good. And we're just, I'm feeling that crunch of making sure we want to kind of fit in the different activities that we want to do the rest of this month because Christmas is coming soon. And the thing is, Christmas can feel very stressful. It can feel very overwhelming. A lot of people actually end up hating the month of December because it feels so full and so overwhelming. So in today's episode, we are talking about an extremely popular topic, which is how to have more joy and less stress the rest of this month and as we head into January, because the thing is, it doesn't really slow down. So we're going to have lots of fun memories, lots of things happening this next 2 weeks. But then we've got that awkward week between Christmas and New Year. We've got New Year. Then we are just steaming right into the new year with lots of things going on. And it's really easy to just let the next month and a half just feel like overwhelm and stress overload. So this talk that you're about to hear was from sometime last year. And we've had a couple of Christmas episodes. You can go back and listen if you kind of want to do a little bit more Christmas prep. We've had 2 episodes in November that were really, really helpful. And in that, I actually heard from a lot of people who said, hey, that episode you did last year on how to have more joy and less stress was like amazing. And I actually just keep going back to listen to it again and again. And then I had a couple more people say, hey, I know you did a talk on this somewhere and I can't find it. So I decided that as we're approaching Christmas, this is the exact message that my heart needs to hear right now as things are busy. Our whole family is coming down with a sickness yesterday and today. So like half the family this morning woke up and my son's like, my throat hurt. And my other son's like, I can't walk without my head hurting. My throat hurts. I cannot talk very much right now. We're getting hit again. And I'm like, okay, this is what we need is we need a pep talk on having joy through the rest of this busy, busy month. So you're going to get to hear this replay from last year. So you may have already heard this, but honestly, like I wrote this and did it last year. And I feel like it's really helpful to re-listen to myself. So hopefully you will enjoy it a second time if you've already heard it. So what this audio recording is that you're going to hear is actually the recording of a workshop that I did. It was a live workshop. So there are a few places where I will reference, like I'm reading some people's questions, but I always read it out loud and answer them. So if the format's a little funky, that's why, but it's still great to be able to listen to. For those of you watching this episode today on YouTube, however, I cannot find the original video file that went with this talk. I can only find the audio file and I'm out of time today. So we're going to go ahead and play the audio still here on YouTube. You won't have much to look at, but you'll still be able to listen along and hear it out. All right. So that's what we're going to dive into. It is kind of a long workshop, but it is well worth it if you're trying to find some more joy this year. So we're just going to go ahead now and jump straight into it. A little backstory for me. The holidays can be quite jam-packed for us, for our family, which I feel like, raise your hand, like, can you relate to this? Do you feel like November and especially December hit and it's just like all of a sudden, you guys, I think we're going to turn around and it's going to be January 5th and we're going to be like, whoa, it was just November 5th. Like how? Because stuff goes so fast. And so for me, this is, and I know a lot of you have all kinds of other stuff in November and December as well. And for our family, we have a lot of birthdays. And so it just makes everything more jam-packed when I'm trying to make sure that birthdays are special too. And that birthdays don't get overlooked. And because I want all of my children to feel like their birthdays are special. And I don't want them to feel like, oh, my birthday's in December. So it's kind of, it, is just not that important. So for us, obviously, like this year, we've got Thanksgiving on the 24th. Jason's birthday then is December 10th, which, is like just another thing on the schedule. We've got Christmas Eve, Christmas. Then my oldest twin's birthday is the day after Christmas. So we've got 2 birthdays there, which already with twins, like you want to make sure that they feel special and unique on their birthday. And then it's the day after Christmas. And then we have New Year's. My birthday is January 3rd. And then we do get a little bit of a break, but then Magnolia's birthday is January 20th. So right here between December 10th and January 20th, we have got 5 birthdays. No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. We have 5 birthdays. And so that's a lot with Christmas and New Year's and just the busyness of the new year and everything. To have those 5 birthdays on top means that things are busier and that I have to be just like that much more intentional with my time. Melissa says, Jason and I share a birthday. Yay, that's so fun. Another Jessica says, yep, 5 of our children have December birthdays, plus my son-in-law and late mother-in-law, and then one January 5th. I do think it's a popular time for lots and lots of birthdays. And Heidi saying, you have a lot also, which just, whether or not you have birthdays, but there's Christmas parties and office parties and all kinds of other things that can be kind of packed into this time. Christmas plays. And again, almost all of these things are really good things, but they do add to the busyness and having to make sure that we're being extra intentional with our time. And so I decided long ago, probably when my oldest twins were born the day after Christmas. So they weren't due until like January 16th or something like that. But they were 3 weeks early. My water broke on Christmas night, and they were born at 4 a.m. The Christmas night. So technically the 26th, that they do have their own day. But I decided when they were born, I was excited, like my babies were here. And all I heard that week was, oh my gosh, how sad that their birthday's the day after Christmas. And I thought, why? It doesn't have to be sad. They don't have to feel like there's something wrong. In fact, my oldest twins would tell you that they have the greatest birthday ever because it's a week-long celebration. They love it. They love it. And I do think part of that is because Jason and I have made a huge, huge intention that it's not their fault they were born the day after Christmas. It's way more work on me, but I am going to have a joyful attitude about it. And they're not going to feel like it's sad that their birthday is the day after Christmas. We're going to make it work. And so I decided long ago that I could either be a stressed out basket case, which is not fun for me and it's not fun for everybody else, or I could enjoy the season, busyness and all. So what we're going to get to in the second half is we're going to really talk about some practical things, our schedules, time blocking, how to get housekeeping done. That's coming next. We are going to have a Q&A time at the end as well. So if you've got some questions on specifically how to do things, how our family does things, save those questions for the end, and we will have a Q&A time. I'll answer as many as I can. But first, I want to talk about this, that I have to remind myself all the time. Like I literally say this to myself out loud in my head to Jason, that I get to choose my own attitude. My attitude, my joyfulness, my peace, they are dependent on no one but myself. No one but myself. It doesn't matter what the attitudes are in the household. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. No one else controls how I react to situations. No one else can force me to be a grouch or to be fussy. We do live in households with sinners. So the day can start off horrible. Everyone else can be nightmares. I'm just going to say it. There's some bad days, right? But how we react to a situation is how we choose to react. And this is what I do have to tell myself, because listen, ladies, I'm postpartum right now. They're actually totally smoothing out. He'll be 3 months on the 12th. Have to think it through. He'll be 3 months on the 12th. So I'm really starting to get over that hump of, your emotions being all over the place. But right now, I have to tell myself, I have to remind myself, this is my emotions. I tend to get stressed out in the evenings. I think it's my cortisol. I think that's very common for women too. Start to get stressed out. I'm laying in bed and, my to-do list is running through my brain and I can't shut it off and I can't go to sleep. And I'm reacting with less patience towards the kids. I have to realize and recognize my hormones do factor in there. Absolutely. But God is still calling me to have joy and to have peace. And I don't do it perfectly. I mess up all the time, but I do need to remind myself of this. I need to tell myself that I can be in control of my own attitude and that I can literally bite my tongue, stop talking mid sentence, and say, nope, I'm choosing to have a better attitude right now. And I think that's really, really, really where this needs to start. Okay, Jessica, I love your comment. She says, I have learned that I cannot do all the regular school stuff with all the holiday and birthday events going on. We take off of formal school the week of Thanksgiving and resume around the Epiphany, depending on what day of the week that falls on. I love that. I love that. That's, I think, part of realizing and recognizing what you need to do. And of course, those of you listening, I know some of you are homeschoolers, some of you do all kinds of different kinds of schooling, some of you don't have children. I mean, we're all in different stages of life. I am sharing as a mom with little kids who homeschools what our schedules are. But of course, how you need to figure this out is going to depend on your family and the requirements that are on you. So along the lines of Jessica, this is kind of an aside, but years ago, I heard of people doing like year-round homeschool where they would like homeschool through the summer and take larger breaks through the year. I have to be honest, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. I'm like, I'm not schooling through the summer. Like, I just was like, that's dumb. Like, or for other people, that's fine, but not for me. Like, no. And Jason's funny. Jason had the same attitude. We were both like, no, because I went to public school. He was homeschooled, but he followed it like the exact like traditional schedule. And so we both were like, absolutely not. And then through our 2 years of full-time travel, we realized that it works way better for us to school throughout the year because we love to take off. We basically take off the entire month of December from regular school. And then in July, when it's hot and nobody wants to play outside anyway, we're catching up on stuff. And so for us, that works really, really well. So thinking outside the box, even of how you can kind of reorient your schedules, and we're going to talk about what you can take off your schedule, can make for a really, really, it just can make it a lot easier. And we have come to love our year-round homeschooling. So thinking how you can kind of think outside the box, I think really helps. So going along the lines of thinking about our own attitudes and our own responses, one thing that I think us as women in particular really, really need to think through is what are our expectations this holiday season? And I think this is the trap that we fall into a lot because we're not realizing that we have very clear expectations or very high and lofty expectations until we're midway through the day and we're not happy on Christmas because it's really not going the way we thought. What if instead we chose not to have any expectations of how things were going to go? Holidays are never going to be as truly magical or as incredible as maybe we think they're going to be, or as restful. That's probably something that we all struggle with, or a lot of us struggle with, is they're not as restful as we expect them to be. We think of Christmas Day maybe as completely off of everything. Oh, except people need food and we got to clean up the mess and things like that. And so we can get grumpy and feel like they're not as restful as we think. But I think this every major holiday, I always think, oh, it's like, it's kind of surreal. Like when you're sitting there on Christmas and you're like, oh, it's Christmas today. Like almost like as if it should feel different. And yet it feels like a day, right? Like a regular day. You're like, oh yeah, it is actually Christmas. You kind of have a little bit of that like surreal feeling. I feel like that the day we have our babies, like on the day I'm like, we have our baby today. Like it's just kind of surreal. And it doesn't ever quite maybe feel like we think it's going to, like somehow like there should be like, I don't know, everybody breaking out into like song and dance because it's Christmas. And then when you realize it's like a regular day with sinners in your house, I think it can be hard sometimes. Like families are going to get sick. The apple pie is going to burn. Children are going to fight. Our husbands might disappoint us. We get tired. We get exhausted. Things are going to happen not only on the day, but over the next 2 months. And yet, if as wife or as mom in our house, we can go a long way in creating the atmosphere in our home. And I think that goes with what we are telling ourselves. What is the inner monologue that we have running? Are we just telling ourselves, oh, poor me, oh, this is not going the way I wanted? Are we constantly complaining in our head? Because I really think that we can make or break the day. And we're going to talk about what your goals are for your family. One of my goals is to have to teach my children how to be thankful. One of my goals is to model thankfulness. And yet, how often am I complaining? How often am I complaining about the to-do list that needs to get done and people not doing the things that I want? Like, am I just constantly complaining out loud or in my brain so that I just have a scowl on my face around the house, which absolutely can happen? Am I modeling thankfulness to anybody? So I need to realize, like, what are my expectations? And am I expecting the moon? And when that doesn't happen, I'm a brat to be around. And I think for a lot of us, that absolutely can be a huge struggle of ours that leads to the yelling and the whining and the complaining and all of that. So as we start to move into some of the practical stuff, I think we need to be really, really honest here. What are your goals around the holidays? Because I think a lot of us have very vague ideas. We want family time. We want, we're thinking of like the magical, like we're going to do Christmas cookies and you've got all these great things, like good things planned out, like even good expectations. You've got all this stuff planned out. And then the kids start fighting and then you forgot that you're out of butter. And then, the day devolves and here you are grumpy. And so what I think we need to think about is while we're planning activities and things to put on the schedule, we need to think about what our overarching goals are for the season. So, Jason's texting me. Jason's at Hobby Lobby. Hold on one second. Okay. He's at Hobby Lobby looking for a pumpkin carving kit and he's finding, Jason loves Christmas decorations. So he's finding Christmas decorations now and he's texting me, can we get this? Do you have this? I love it. We both go nuts over Christmas. Okay. So here's what I go back to again and again. When I am telling myself that I get to choose my attitude, what I also have to remind myself is what is our overarching goal for the season. So if my goal for the holiday is all about me and what I get out of it, everyone's going to be miserable, including myself. And I knew an older woman who got very, very grouchy at every single holiday because her expectations were not being met. And so every holiday, the family knew that she was going to be yelling and she was going to be unhappy because it wasn't going her way. And that makes for a miserable household. And so are we women who are going to be resilient? Are we women who are going to choose joy even when the day doesn't go the way we want? And are we women that can withhold our own expectations to say, God, today is going to be what it's going to be, and I trust you in that process? Can we step into the day instead of feeling like we have to control it all, and when it doesn't go our way, then we're miserable and we make everybody else miserable? Can we let go of those bad expectations, plan for some good things, but hold our plans loosely and know that God's plans ultimately are going to take over and that we can be content and we can be joyful even if the plans don't go our way? So if I have my own extremely lofty expectations of how the day is going to go, I'm going to be disappointed. And I think often too, it's unspoken expectations. Like we don't even necessarily realize we have the expectations going into the day until they get off. And then we realize. So going into it, we need to shift our mindsets. And someone just said, it sounds like my husband. Yes, husbands absolutely can have this as well, that they're having poor expectations going into the holiday. And they can be grumpy and they can feel like nothing's going their way. But we can also recognize too, that even if there's poor attitudes from other members of the household, that doesn't have to ruin everything. And we still can have contentment. Might not be like the happiest day of all time if other people are in terrible attitudes, but we can still have a joy and a peace that's rooted in the Lord and not in our circumstances. And I do think getting clear on these goals that we're about to talk about, I think is something that if your husband is willing, get him involved in so that you two are on the same page. And that's going to make a big difference as well. Okay. So we can be a whole lot more joyful if we ask ourselves, how can I serve the Lord today? And this is what, again, I keep saying this. I need to tell myself a lot of things. I need to go back to this when maybe our husbands are the grumpy ones. Maybe the kids are fighting. Maybe it's really not what we wanted the day to be. I need to go back to this, that we are called to serve. We're called to serve. All Christians are. We are called to serve. We're called to lay down our life. And I need to ask myself, if the day gets totally unrailed and is horrible, what is God asking of me to do today? What is God asking me in this season to do? And if it's a horrible day, then guess what? I can be a little bit of a light to my family. I can stop. I can stop my bickering and my complaining, and I can get my heart centered in the right spot, and I can ask the Lord for more peace in my home. And really, at the end of the day, we can't control other people's attitudes and actions, but we can control our own. So Colossians 10, 1 through 12 says, so as to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God, may you be strengthened with all power, according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience, with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. So to me, that just really makes me remember that if this season is about thankfulness, the season is about the birth of the Savior, then we need to be putting on that thankfulness. And that is a choice every single day to put on joyfulness and a heart of loving and serving. And so when I'm looking at the next 2 months, I'm not looking at what am I getting out of this? What is everything that I want to do? There are some things I want to do for sure, but am I doing this from a posture of serving my family, guess what? Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, I am working my booty off. I am working a lot. Those days are not the most restful days. And so how can I, though, have a joyful heart and serve my family? Because I know, as we're going to talk about with goals, that is one of my goals, is to provide these memories for my children. So guess what? I go into Christmas knowing that Christmas Day is a lot of work. While the kids are finishing up and starting to play with their stuff from their stockings, I am getting the cinnamon rolls ready. I am working. But in the afternoon, we do build in time. I do plan food ahead so that I can relax more. But guess what? Maybe later in the week, we have an entire chill day where I've pre-made everything. We're eating leftovers, and that's my day to relax. So what are some ways that you can look at your schedule that, Christmas, Thanksgiving, those are going to be busy, probably not the most relaxing days for you. Go into that knowing that and have a joyful heart that you get to make an awesome day for your family, and build in some rest maybe the next day or the day after or the day before. So really looking at how we can change our expectations going into that. Okay, we are going to take a brief pause for our sponsor for today's episode, HelloFresh. So with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip the trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable, which is why it's America's #1 meal kit. So if you are feeling really squeezed for time the next couple of months, then HelloFresh really becomes the hero of the day because they make it really simple and really easy to be able to get hot, home-cooked meals on your dinner table, especially when seasons get busy, when that schedule gets really, really full. They make it very, very simple. So what you do is you get to pick from a couple of different menus. Actually, I think they have a bunch of options now. They've got quick and easy options like 20-minute meals, easy cleanup recipes, and you can go on and see all the different meal plans that they have. But you're going to choose what you want. You get to choose how many people that you're feeding, and then you get this magical box that shows up on your doorstep that contains your a full color recipe card to teach you how to cook the meal and all of your ingredients ready to go. So it's got the chicken, the raw chicken in there. It's got the potatoes. It's got an onion. It's got the things that you need so that you can just pull the bag out when it's 20 minutes to dinner time, look at the recipe card and just start cooking. I actually think HelloFresh is also like a fantastic way to teach your kids how to cook because these recipe cards have the color, photos on it. They give you the directions and you can cook together, assign some of the meals to your kids, and be able to get hot, home-cooked, fresh food on your table without having to eat out and things like that. So I think HelloFresh can be awesome when you are really in one of those seasons where the budget is tight and your time is even tighter. Now, here's the really cool thing. You can go to HelloFresh.com/homemaking65 and use coupon code homemaking65 for 65% off plus free shipping. So just go to hellofresh.com/homemaking65 and use code homemaking65 for 65% off plus free shipping, which is so awesome because then you really can save a lot of time right now and save a lot of money with that coupon code as well. The other cool thing is that Green Chef is now owned by HelloFresh. And so with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. We love switching between the two different brands. And now my listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount from me. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Okay, Jennifer said, you, Jamie, mentioned in a recent lesson that when you feel stressed out and chaotic, declutter. So I'm trying to do some of that right now so that the holidays go more smoothly. Absolutely. Okay, let's get to the practical stuff because that's what we're going to start to jump in. So first thing to think through is what is your goal or what are your goals for this holiday season? When we enter the season of a posture of how can I serve the Lord instead of how can everyone else serve me, we can find a whole lot more joy and peace in the year. So what is our goal as a family? I want to encourage you to pray about your goal. I want to encourage you to get your husband involved in this if he's willing, and to really start thinking right now, what is it that overall we want out of November, December, and even into the new year. So before we dive into the rest of the practical how-to tips, I want us to pause and truly reflect on this. What is the point of the holidays anyway? So if you guys have if you're thinking already kind of what some of your goals are, I would love for you to put them in here because I think that can be really helpful. But if you've never really thought about this seriously, it might be something that when you get off this call and you're doing the dishes or you're driving to go pick up kids from school, that you're going to start thinking about this. Because as Christians, our goal should be to point our family back to Christ. November and December are some of the best times of the entire year to point our immediate family and our extended family back to Christ. So if we're starting with that's our number one goal, then your other little goals, your fun things that get put on the schedule are all revolving around this point of pointing our family back to Christ. So if I'm looking at Christmas as Jamie's vacation day where I get to I'm disappointed because people didn't get me enough presents. Or am I looking at that I can use Christmas as a really powerful tool to share Christ with my kids? And if I'm coming at it from that perspective, that really changes how I'm approaching the day. So for me, thinking about pointing my family back to Christ, Jason and I want to create warm and fun traditions for our family. We want to create things that our children look back on and be like, that's what we did every Christmas. And this is what we want to do with our kids. I want to point my children back to Christ in what we're doing, which includes stopping and apologizing to my children when I have yelled and when I have become frustrated and overwhelmed. It means stopping to reflect and helping my kids to cultivate thankfulness in their heart by modeling that myself. I want to teach them about the light that was born on Christmas and is coming at Easter, which is Jesus. I want to cultivate an attitude of thankfulness in my home. And it starts with me. It starts with me. And it can also start with your husband, but we can't control our husbands. So we can control ourselves and our own attitudes. So really, really getting clear on what our expectations are and what our goals are help us then when we're trying to say yes to things and no to other things. And ladies, I got to be honest, a lot of the frustration I hear from women around the holidays, which I've experienced myself, is because we have a poor attitude. It really is. There is a lot to get done. There's a lot of expectations. There is absolutely tons of practical stuff we can do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to our attitude and how we are approaching it. Okay. Heather said that's hard because on my side of the family, the holidays are a source of stress because they want to control it. So we've had to just have holidays at our house. And if they choose to come, that's up to them. And you know what, Heather? I think that's actually really wise. I think as part of a family, when you are stewarding the goals for your own family. So if, for example, you keep bringing your kids over to extended family's house and it's not a God glorifying environment. It's not your goal for your family for Christmas. It's absolutely okay to stop doing that, even though seeing extended family can be a part of Christmas traditions. There's absolutely times, and I think that's part of being wise, figuring out what your goal is for your immediate family. There is wisdom then in saying that we are no longer doing certain things because it's actually hurting your family. And it's not to be mean, but it's to follow God's leading for your family. Oh, Jason didn't. Jason got candles, fake candles at Hobby Lobby, but he did not get a carving kit. Okay. All right. Okay. So practical tip number 1. So let's move through this. We need to be super clear on our goals. So here are my personal goals for this very busy season, or mine and Jason's goals for our family. So this first one is what I have to tell myself. I need to honor the Lord with the time that I have. And so for me, that's actually working really diligently. Jason and I, about a week ago, I sat down and I started looking at our calendar for November, December, and my head started swimming because I'm like, oh, there's a lot coming up. Like this was like the couple days before Halloween. So just like last end of October. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already full. So I sat down with Jason and I said, look, I'm starting to stress a little bit. There is so much, like, what we need to do is sit down with the calendar. And I think my tendency in that moment was to whine and complain because I'm like, there's already so much. And I stopped and I said, Jason, what I want to have is I want to have a joyful heart going into this. We have really good things coming up, but it's busy. So what do you and I need to do? How do we need to orient our calendar right now? What do we maybe need to have some hard conversations of taking off the calendar so that we have the margin in the space to get the important things done? But we're going to have a joyful attitude about this. So we actually sat down, pulled out the calendar, and did some hardcore planning what day these things are going to happen, when they're going to happen, and really planned out November and December. And it was such a good perspective. We got some great practical planning done, but it was a really good perspective for me to see this is going to be a busy month, but the things that we're working towards, the things that we're doing are worth it. And so for me this month, this week has been a busy one. We have been working our booties off and it's been good. It's been good things, but it is so tempting for me each day to be like this morning. He was so fussy, his poor tummy. I had to get this slideshow done, get ready for you guys right at noon or right at 1. And I absolutely could have been grumbling and complaining in that and been like, oh my gosh, oh, of course, right now the baby has to have a sore tummy. Oh, of course, right now. So easy in little things to let your complaining get away from you. And yet, if I can honor the Lord with the time I have and work diligently, then I have accomplished a huge, huge goal. And so this for me personally is a goal that I have to really keep in mind that, yeah, there's busyness the next 2 months, but I can honor the Lord. I can serve the Lord. I can serve my family with being a hard and diligent worker. But what that also means for our family is we have built in a lot of rest time as well. We're not running ourselves into the ground the next 2 months, but when I'm working, I need to be working. I need to be a hard worker. And then we have that built-in rest time as well. My second goal is to focus on thankfulness, both in my own heart and how I'm teaching my kids. That goes a really long way. We want to cultivate rich and deep traditions with our children and as a family unit ourselves, and to have the margin for our Christmas bucket list, which we're going to talk about. We love Christmas, okay? Our household, November 1st, Christmas hits. In fact, we would have already decorated for Christmas this week. I know we're crazy, but my aunt is coming to visit us on Tuesday. She's coming for the week with my 2 cousins. And this house is small, so I didn't want the extra clutter while they're here. But like the day that they leave, we're decorating for Christmas. So we have fun stuff that we want to do, but that's why we have to get really clear on what our goals are and actually really like getting it, putting it on the schedule. Okay, so what this means for our schedule practically, learning how to say no. And this is absolutely going to change from year to year and season to season. So for this season, it looks like a lot of extra no's because my energy is not that high right now. I have a newborn and we've got a lot of fun exciting big work projects coming up. And so I'm very clear right now on what my priorities are the next 2 months. And so we have had other seasons where we say yes to the Christmas parties, where we say yes to the cookie exchanges, where we say yes traveling to the other side of the country to see family, where we do lots of fun outings and crafts and we go to plays. There are other seasons where those have been the right thing to choose. This season, it is not. We're not doing hardly any outside activities because it would be at the sake of our other goals for this season. So like my kids, the ages that they're at right now, they want to bake Christmas cookies and they have so many baking goals that they want to do. My kids are obsessed with baking right now. They want to make donuts and they want to do so much of that. So what that means in me stewarding my energy well right now means saying no to basically every outside thing right now so that we have the margin and the time to do what we need to do for our family. Now, we still, like looking at priorities, church is absolutely a priority every single week. Jason has a men's group that is still absolutely a priority. So there are certain things, like we're not forsaking everything right now, but we're saying no to extra things right now that in a different season or for someone else would absolutely be a yes this season. But because we're very clear on what our goals are, it is a lot easier for us to say no to those extra things. Okay. What we are saying yes to. So like I said, lots and lots of baking because this fits multiple of our goals. It's tradition building. It is, I want one-on-one time or 1-on-7 time with my kids this year. We want lots of cozy home days where like my kids love making tea and having cookies and building in a lot of those traditions. That's what a lot of our time is going to be because that aligns with our goals of what we want, of being able to be alongside my children and teaching them. And that is going to take place of a lot of our schooling in December, is doing a lot of these kind of activities. We want a lot of cozy movie nights with those treats that we just baked. That's something that our family loves, Christmas movies together. Our focus this year is on a lot of quality time as a family and as being able to teach, being able to go through the Christmas story and having family worship time, building those times in. So for us, like I said, it means a lot of saying no to outside things right now. We have a concise bucket list going of crafts or things that we want to do as a family. So we do this at least once or twice a season, is we make hot chocolate, bring it in our thermoses, and we go walk around to like the really amazing neighborhoods and look at Christmas lights, which now that we're in Oklahoma, we need to figure out where those are. We knew where those were in California, but we love that. Like it's one of mine and Jason's favorite things. So we make sure that there's time for that. We love reading Christmas books in the evening or books that just have a very like Christmas feel to them. These are the things that we're saying yes to that align with our goals and what are a priority for us right now. Okay, so here's the practical things. We need to find the time for these things. How do we find the time for the things on our goals list? Now, there are some other things that I'd love to do this season that just knowing time constraints, we're not going to get to them. And that's okay as well. There are future seasons for having more of a capacity, for doing more things. And so I need to recognize too that not every season is going to fit in every good thing that you want to do. So what I want to encourage you though, that Jason and I have done that has been working really well is make a weekly list of these things that you actually really want to fit in. In past seasons that I have felt in Novembers and Decembers that I have felt were very chaotic was I had very vague ideas of things that I wanted to do. So I had very vague ideas of like, well, we want to do Christmas cookies at some point. Well, we want to watch this movie at some point. Well, we want to, at some point. And then all of a sudden it's Christmas Eve and you're like, oh, we didn't do any of those. And it can just feel like you were busy, but did you actually get any of those good things done that you wanted to? And so starting with your goals for this season, what are the things you absolutely must have on the schedule? And what are some things you'd like to have on the schedule? You want to actually put them on the schedule. So seriously, get a calendar out of November and December. And what we have done is we have picked out one time a week. So for us, it's Friday afternoons that are non-negotiably set aside for your holiday bucket list. So we have something, if you guys, actually, if you haven't listened yet, you should go listen to one of my recent podcast episodes called Project Fridays. We started doing it for homeschool. And this is what now our Project Fridays are going to shift into Christmas activities. So you're going to look at your calendar and you're going to look at and say, how many Fridays are left before Christmas? Okay, we have 7. We have 7 Fridays left before Christmas. So we are picking 7 activities, outings, crafts, and we're going to literally schedule them in. So next Friday is going to be this. The Friday after is going to be, okay, so for example, we have one of our traditions is that when we decorate for Christmas, instead of it just being like a boring work day, we make it an ultra exciting day. The day before, I make a ton of hors d'oeuvres. And then on the day of decorating for Christmas, we get hors d'oeuvres out and we just eat off of our hors d'oeuvres for like basically breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I pull out different ones at different times. And so we pull out the meat and cheeses at dinner and the crackers, and we just do tons of fun hors d'oeuvres all day, which just makes it feel different and exciting. We have Christmas music going. We're pulling, it's a work day. We're pulling all the Christmas stuff out. We're getting everything set up and decorating. We're usually getting stuff reorganized and cleaned. It's a work day. And yet we make it really, really fun and exciting by adding in some of these extra traditions. So that will be our Friday after my aunt leaves. And so really starting to actually like pick when these are going to happen. And so what that does is if I know in 4 days from now, we're having our big Christmas decorating day, then I need to plan my meal plan out today. Tomorrow, I'm going to go grocery shopping. And the day after, during nap time, I'm going to get the hors d'oeuvres set up and ready to go. And it helps me to start actually scheduling that time in so that these big things happen. Same goes if you're wanting to do Christmas cookies, if you're wanting to do all kinds of things that you could add in there. We're actually going to block off our time, and we know Friday afternoons are dedicated to this. And what that does is it protects it for the next 2 months. So if something comes up, we can say, sorry, we're busy during that time because we literally have something scheduled. And so that really helps us to be able to block that off, and then also make sure that those 7 things are going to happen. And it makes sure that I've only scheduled 7 things and not 15 things, because even if you got 6 of them done, you might get to Christmas and feel let down that you didn't get more done. So being really realistic with what time do I have? Where could I block off some time and actually get it scheduled? Put it there and plan week 3, this is happening. And so now I know I have 3 weeks to kind of prepare, gather the things that I need, make sure that it actually happens. All right. So what else is in your goal? Okay. So for us, another thing that we have is that we love Christmas movies. We love Christmas movies. We have a whole list. We watch certain ones every year, like Elf. And then we have others that we are like, oh, it's a new one out. Let's try it. So our family goal, we have a whole list of Christmas movies that we want to cuddle up on the couch with. So we have literally picked out 7 of our favorite, and each Wednesday night is family movie night. This is something that we already do. And so some of these things are just kind of, trying to work into good routines that maybe even by next Christmas, you'll have down better. But every Wednesday night is family movie night already. And so now we know starting this Wednesday that for the next 7 Wednesdays, we have got our Christmas movies picked out. And so what this means is that we also are not going to say yes to anything on those nights because our Wednesday nights are already accounted for. Okay, practical tip number 2. And we're almost done. I've just got one more tip for you. Get the family on board with your plans if you can. So I love to get the kids in on my vision of the next 2 months. I love to talk to them about it. I love to get excited. And if they're into it and if they feel a part of it, I think it's easier to pull off. Now, some kids just have to be forced into it. If you've got an angsty teenager, too bad. You're drinking hot chocolate and coming along for the Christmas lights. I have one kid in particular, no matter what we say we're going to do, I don't want to do that. And then half an hour later, he's forgotten and he's having fun. So don't let that ruin your attitude. If the kid's going to be grumpy, let him be grumpy. He's coming along for the ride. Don't let it ruin your mood. If people are kicking and screaming, You're going to have a joyful heart and you're going to sip your hot chocolate and point out all the lights. You can make such a big impact on the attitudes if you don't let the other attitudes get to you. So here's what I have found is that ask them what activities or movies they want on the list. So as you're coming up with this, make this a family event. Start talking about all the fun things that you can do. Our bucket list is very much a combined effort of Jason, myself, and the kids' input of everybody kind of getting to vote and say, well, I want to put this on the schedule. Well, I want this on the schedule. And ultimately, it's up to you and your husband, but get them involved and don't be discouraged if you've never asked for their input on these things, if you've never cultivated activities like this, or have a movie list. If you say, what do you guys want to do? And they go, I don't know. Oh, well, make a list. And by next year, when you ask, they might go, oh, well, remember we did that last year? So if they're not all into it, that's fine. But I think the more you do this kind of thing, the more you can get them excited and into it, even the angsty teenager eventually. Explain to them, tip number 2, explain to them that if you're going to fit all of this fun extra stuff in, then it's going to be a joint effort by everyone. So this is what I encourage you to go listen to my Project Fridays podcast episode, because what we do on Project Fridays is the kids and I have formed like a big thing. Like they want to make homemade candles. They want to learn how to make candy. Like we've all this huge list of things of like fun projects that they want to learn how to do. And we block off Friday afternoons for that. But we call it Project Fridays because in the afternoon we have a fun project. But in the morning before the fun project, we do a work project. And what this kind of came about was, well, if I'm going to block off this extra time, if I'm going to throughout the week figure out gathering all the materials, spending my time watching a tutorial, figuring out how to do it, then I need some extra help with the housework in order to pull that off. And so the kids know that first thing Friday when we get up, we have some sort of project. A lot of times, really, it's deep cleaning. We're mopping the floors. Someone's detailed cleaning a bathroom. Like a lot of times it's this extra stuff so that I go into the weekend with a clean house. But sometimes it's pulling out the summer garden because we want to get the fall garden in. Sometimes it's cleaning out the garage or cleaning out the car and vacuuming it. We'll have a different project that has to get done first in order then to do the fun thing. And the kids just know now that that's the expectation. And I got to tell you, there's so much more joy. There's so much more quick to do it because I'm like, as soon as we're done, we're starting our project. And so this morning, they all had deep cleaning projects to do because we're carving pumpkins. And so that's our Project Friday today. And so they know that. And so being very upfront and saying, hey, this is a joint effort. If we're doing this, we need some extra housekeeping efforts, and really just making that a part of the expectation. And again, you may have a kid who's like, well, I don't care about carving pumpkins. Well, you're part of this family. You're going to do the chore anyway. But I think really starting to make it like a fun thing, make the whole day fun, put music on and make it exciting, and make cookies so that while they're, oh no, are you okay? You woke up grumpy. While they're cleaning, that they get a cookie. Like there is stuff that you can do to do the fun things, but also move along the housekeeping, move along some projects that need to be done, and make it kind of fun and exciting. Kind of like when we decorate for Christmas, it's a work day, but we make it a fun work day. So what are some things that you can really think about and be intentional with that? And then I also think what really goes along with this is work on establishing normal household routines, because that's going to make a really, really big difference. And we're actually going to talk about our training program here in a second. So if you're really needing help, if you're like, that's what I need help with though, I've got an amazing resource for you to talk about. Okay, so when the going gets hard, just keep going and don't take it personal. Ladies, let's work on being resilient. Let's work on not taking the kids' attitudes personally, not getting overly offended if our husband's not helping out. Let's be resilient and keep going. So recognize that this season, you're going to have some great easy days where you're like, that was the best holiday ever. You're also going to have days that start off with terrific plans, but that sin attempts to ruin it. Don't let it. Have a joyful heart, even in the hard. Brush it off. Pray for strength, put on a smile, regroup, change your plans. Are you throwing yourself a pity party? snap out of it and model joyfulness. Really, I got to be honest, like sometimes we really need to tell ourselves that we can choose to not throw ourselves a pity party, and that we can choose to have a joyful heart. Okay, so here's your homework, ladies, and we're gonna start getting your questions ready. Oh, my puppy, I'm so sorry. Okay, here's your homework. We're gonna do this today before you forget. 1, you're gonna start dreaming up your holiday bucket list. Baking, movies, Christmas parties. What is your holiday bucket list? 2, you're gonna pull out a calendar and start to block off a regular time each week or certain days that these are gonna be done. You're gonna find a place now for the items on your bucket list. Number 3, now with a realistic idea of the time, make your final list with days and times attached. You might have made a list of 15, but you're going to have to narrow it down to 7, or you're going to do things twice a week. You're going to really figure out where realistic times are that don't make you feel like you want to pull your hair out and scream because it's too busy. You're going to create a realistic housekeeping routine around that. It's wonderful to come up with all these fun extra things you're going to do, but how are you going to keep the household moving along? Where is laundry going to fit into this routine? Where is scrubbing the toilets and getting normal food cooked? So if each Friday is blocked off for projects, what extra housekeeping maybe needs to be done as you head into the weekends? And when are you going to do it? Okay. Does maybe Saturdays need to be a work day to catch up? Thursday night, are you going to make sure the kitchen's completely clean? What are some housekeeping routines that you can really work into your schedule? Okay, Amanda says, thank you so much for this workshop. I grew up in a home with a mom who didn't enjoy holidays because of the stress, and I'm sad to say I have been following in her footsteps, but this was such a good perspective change. So my question, this year we have an infant as well. She's 4 months, and my husband is really wanting to be involved in every holiday event, especially his work Christmas party, which is out of town overnight. I'm breastfeeding and struggling to get her to take a bottle. Oh shoot, I messed it up. I'm dreading this party because I think it will put a lot of stress on me, on our baby and toddler, the person who'll be watching them. I don't want to go this year, but know my husband will be really bummed. Not sure what to do. What would you do? Okay, so I really like, this is definitely a case. Oh, actually, you know what? We can go back. Let me stop sharing. Oh no. Stop sharing. There we go. Okay. So I definitely think like in this case, this is something, I think this is something that you really need to discuss with your husband. Like, have you really, really set up expectations instead of just feeling resentful probably about it, instead of just feeling like it's going to be so much work? Can you talk to your husband about it and say, here's where I'm feeling really stressed about this. Here's what's feeling like, I know you're very excited to go. Here are the areas that are really stressing me out. And can you guys find a compromise? Can you take the baby with you? Can you bring the baby so that it doesn't feel as stressful? Or can your husband go without you? Is that an option? Maybe it's not. But is there some compromise that you can get to? Or if you say, hey, you know, this is going to be really stressful, is there something else really fun that we can do? Or if we're going to do this, I'm going to need some help in these ways. Really, really talking through clear expectations, and clearly not in an emotional, crabby way, but very like saying, here's some of my concerns. Can we really talk about this? Eden said, how do you modify chores / cleaning when hosting guests? So when hosting, my aunt and my 2 cousins are going to be staying here with us for about a week. What I do is I try to get the house as clean as possible before they come, because I want it like fully reset. So we're going to be doing like the deep cleaning, the bathrooms. We're going to really be like, you know, making sure that everything is like scrubbed down so that we go into the week really clean, so that I don't have to do as much cleaning throughout the week. So I don't plan on doing a whole lot while they're here. And also part of that is if they're here, they're going to see our normal mess. They're going to see our normal house. It's not going to be perfect. And if I tried to have that expectation of having 7 children, a baby, and hosting people, it would be miserable. And so it's not going to be perfect this week when they're here. But going in with a clean reset house helps. And so that will help. And then we'll be doing like the daily pickup every day. So like before we go to bed, we'll just make sure, you know, the dishes are put up, and the kids will all still have their daily chores. So when they first get up, they'll pick up their bedrooms, so having them do their daily chores is going to help move it along quite a bit. But I'm pretty sure too, by the end of the week, by the time they leave, we're going to need another good day of like cleaning up again, because I'm not going to be doing tons and tons and tons of like extra cleaning. My focus is going to be on them while they're here. But there are still definitely things that you do need to keep going. All right, ladies, thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you enjoyed this pep talk for finding more joy and having less stress this year. If you're watching this on YouTube, please come down and comment. I love getting to interact with you guys on YouTube here. Share your own experiences, what are working well for you. If you had any aha moments, if there's other things you'd like me to cover in the future, I would love to hear from you. Go ahead and comment. Thank you so much for listening in, and we will see you guys back here next week for the next episode.